If there is one thing Nintendo is not afraid to do, it's experiment with its IPs. And nowhere is that more prevalent than in the Kirby franchise. From a small team to mass attacks, Rainbow runs to worlds of yarn, puzzles, pinballs, mechs, whatever the hell Tilt and Tumble is supposed to be. And of course, the obligatory kart racer. God, this game needs a sequel. Kirby has certainly seen his fair share of goofy games and gimmicks, but the one I want to talk about today is his take on the most exciting sport of them all. Golf. Yeah, you heard me. Golf. Hey everyone, Spammer D here. Now, I'm sure you probably can't tell just by looking at me, but I am a huge golf fanatic. That is a lie. I can't stand anything that makes me have to go outside. But I have played enough golf games to know that Kirby's Dream Course is not your typical golf game. Who would have guessed, right? Though the game is actually more akin to miniature golf, with all the obstacles in your way and the expectation to bank your shots. You actually can, and will, hit the ball, aka Kirby, into the air in order to get through, more like regular golf. But I'm definitely getting ahead of myself here. Popping the game in, you'll find yourself with two options, the single player mode and the multiplayer mode. And while both use the same mechanics, they are fundamentally different. Starting with the single player, you'll be surprised to find that it isn't the standard 18-hole course that you'd expect to find in a traditional golf or mini golf game. No, this is a full-fledged campaign, complete with multiple courses, checkpoints, and even an actual end boss. And yes, we are still talking about a golf game. Though clearly, we're using the term golf very loosely here. This game consists of 8 courses to tackle with 8 holes each that you have to slowly work your way up through as the difficulty ramps up. Though here to help you out a bit at the start of each course is a fun little cutscene that is not only a treat to watch, but also gives away little nuggets of different strategies, trick shots, and how powers can be used to help you make it through the stage. So the game works like this. At the start of each course, Kirby has 2 lives and 4 bars of health, represented by these tasty tomatoes. Each time you take a shot, it uses up a tomato. Use them all up, and you guessed it, that's right, you can die in a mini golf game. Lose all your lives, and it's back to the start of the course. Kirby's hardcore like that. Though you do have infinite continues and saves between courses, so our little puffball is still fair. Though it wouldn't really be all that fair, let alone possible, to make it through 8 holes, which is 4 hit points of health, would it? So let's take a closer look at what we've got here. Tell me, peering around the stage, what do you notice? Well, at first glance, I can't help but notice that every stage is its own small little floating island, and they all look fantastic. Every stage is bright and colorful, and I'm particularly fond of the backgrounds. They all look great. But what might stand out even more is that these delightful stages feature an isometric or pseudo 3D view with each covered in a checker pattern, which is definitely there to help players line up their shots. But wait, hold on. Something's missing. Something critical to any golf game. If we're lining up our shots, what are we aiming for? Hold the phone. Where's the hole? How is this even a golf game without a hole? Well, this is where Dream Course really sets itself apart. You decide where the hole is. Sorta. You've probably noticed by now that each course is littered with enemies. Some in plain sight, some on hills, and some even in the air. But unlike most Kirby games, they're more than just obstacles. They themselves are the puzzles. And to solve those puzzles... yeah, basically, throwing a little bowling in there. But there's definitely more strategy to it than just that. First off, every enemy taken down restores a tomato, so you want to take them down in as few shots as possible, aka going for the lower score. But on top of that, the order you wipe them out matters too, because the final enemy left standing becomes the hole, meaning the hole is never really in a set place. You can be the deciding factor on that. However, obviously some places are simply more preferable,
You know, like at the bottom of a slope that your Kirby can just roll down into, as opposed to the top of a hill with little wiggle room for error. Now, some stages are clearly designed with a path for you to take and an endpoint in mind. Some of these are obvious, and others, not so much. I can't even begin to imagine how this stage was designed with any other purpose than to just screw you over. Still, figuring out how each hole is essentially solved and then trying to do it better or even perfectly is a huge draw and gives reason to replay it again and again. Plus, do well enough and you earn medals that will unlock alternate courses. Though, as I said earlier, this is all just practice for the multiplayer. And this is where I really want to sing the praises of the Switch. While Kirby's Dream Course is on the SNES and the SNES Classic, it's also available for free with the Switch's online SNES collection. And they finally did what I wanted all the consoles to do since the start of the 7th console generation. Make the classics have online support.
That's right, if for whatever reason, you can't play locally, well, there's nothing really stopping you from teeing up online. Honestly, the only downside I can think of is that the game is only 2-playered when this bad boy dropped the year prior. This would have made a awesome 4-player game.
But let's not judge on the what-ifs, because the versus here, for what it is still a lot of fun. But there were changes made from the main game that definitely make things more interesting. First off, stages don't have that subtle path they want you to take here, since that would give the player going first an unfair advantage. Instead, you need to choose how you want to proceed yourself. Because remember, the last enemy standing becomes the hole, whether you caused it or not. And it's first come, first serve. Because in the versus, it's not the lowest score that wins, it's who's got the most points. And the hole is worth the most. But how else do you get points? Well, by taking down foes, of course. But that's not set in stone either. Defeated baddies leave stars behind. But if you pass over your opponent's stars, you can steal them for yourself. Though that won't get you any health back, which is the last bit of strategy worth mentioning. Unlike in the main campaign, running out of tomatoes doesn't result in death, just losing a turn. But you can absolutely help speed that process up for your buddy by using power-ups. Of course, it wouldn't really be a Kirby game without power-ups. Smacking down certain enemies lets you take on their abilities. Now, some are better suited for solving puzzles in the main campaign, like using the ice power to freeze over water traps, but others are better suited for doing damage, like the fireball. These abilities add a certain element of chaos to the matches, and how you use them will definitely dictate whether or not you're the one shaking it Kirby style with the classic victory dance, or the one enduring it. But even losing isn't that bad, since at the very least you get to listen to that great jingle. Yeah, last thing I want to mention real quick is that the music in this game is everything you've come to expect from the Kirby franchise. It's got an overall fun, bubbly, and lighthearted feel to it, with just a few serious tracks thrown in for good measure. The only downside I can really think of with it is just that it doesn't stand out from any other Kirby score, which, again, isn't really that bad. And really, the same can be said for Kirby's Dream Course as a whole. The only complaint I can really levy against the game is that it's one of those, oh yeah, this game exists kind of games. I think you know the type. You and your friends are looking for something to play, you go, oh yeah, Kirby's Dream Course. You play a few rounds, have some fun, and then just move on, only to be in the same situation like a year later and go, oh yeah, and then you're right back in it. But hey, that's just the nature of the beast. With a solid 2-hour campaign with some replayability in there, and a fun versus mode that now has online capability thanks to the Switch, there's really nothing to complain about here. The game looks great, sounds good, controls are simple, and it's easy to pick up and play, but still requires a bit of skill to master. It may not be the best SNES game or even the best Kirby game, but it's probably the best, or at the very least the most entertaining golf game out there. If you just gotta keep things retro, getting a physical cart will run you about $25, which is $5 more than the Switch's online service. And considering you can play the Switch version both locally and online, that's the version I recommend. Plus, you get a bunch of other great games too. Kirby's Dream Course is a fun little diversion that is definitely worth playing at least once, whether you're a Kirby fan, golf fan, or neither. While I wouldn't spend too much on it, if you get the chance to play it, you should absolutely give it a shot. It's a pretty fun game. It comes recommended.